We usually think of darkness as, well, as nothing, an empty space, right? The absence of light. But what if that's completely backwards? In this explainer, we're going to dive into a pretty radical idea that darkness isn't a void at all, but a presence, a powerful, ancient technology that our ancestors mastered and that we've almost completely forgotten. For ancient cultures way up in Northern Europe, the long, deep winter night wasn't something to just survive. It was this tangible, almost nutritive force. It was a time for healing, for deep rest, and for some pretty profound spiritual renewal. They didn't just put up with the darkness, they actually harnessed it. So that's the big question we're tackling today. What if the most advanced piece of tech our ancestors ever developed wasn't a stone tool or a metal weapon, but was darkness itself? And maybe more importantly, what have we lost by flooding our world with constant artificial light? To get to the bottom of this, we have to look at one single miraculous little molecule. Okay, let's talk about melatonin. We all know it as the sleep hormone, right? Something you can pick up in a bottle at the pharmacy to help with jet lag. But honestly, that's like calling the sun a light bulb. The real story of melatonin is so much deeper, and it has this hidden identity that is absolutely key to understanding this lost technology of darkness. So here's the bombshell. It turns out there are actually two kinds of melatonin. The one we all know about comes from the pineal gland in our brain, and it's basically the clock. Darkness triggers it, and it tells our whole body it's time to power down for sleep. But there's another much more ancient form, made inside almost every single one of our cells. This is mitochondrial melatonin. And it's not the clock, it's the guardian. Let's really break this down. On one hand, you have the pineal melatonin. It's the hormone that circulates everywhere and gives us access to what some people call dream time. But look over at the mitochondrial side. Its job is totally different. It's all about cellular defense. And get this, it isn't triggered by darkness outside a cell, but by stress inside the cell. This is the heavy-duty detox agent our ancestors were intuitively firing up during those long winter months of repair. And when I say heavy-duty, I mean it. Mitochondrial melatonin is the ultimate antioxidant. It's like a special forces team for your cells. It slips right into our cellular power plants, the mitochondria, and just neutralizes all the junk, these damaging free radicals that cause aging and disease. This is the deep cellular spring cleaning our ancestors were maximizing, letting them feel like they were literally born anew every single spring. So the big question is, how did they do it? This wasn't an accident. Our ancestors, especially in places like Ireland and Scandinavia, were, for real, brilliant biohackers. They built structures and developed rituals that were basically highly sophisticated technologies designed for one purpose, to engineer the night. Take a look at Newgrange in Ireland. We all know the story, right? That one incredible moment where the winter solstice sun shoots a beam of light deep into the inner chamber. It's stunning. But what if we've been focusing on the wrong thing? The real technology wasn't the light. It was what happened the other 364 days of the year. Absolute pitch black, sensory-depriving darkness. It was an incubation chamber, designed to induce altered states of consciousness. But it wasn't just quiet darkness. There was another ingredient in this ancient formula. Archaeoacoustic researchers, yeah, that's a real thing, have discovered something absolutely startling. These ancient stone chambers, they weren't just built to be dark. They were built to resonate at a very specific frequency. And this is where it gets wild. When you're exposed to a 110 hertz tone, which is right in the range of a male baritone chant, by the way, it actually starts to shut down the language and analytical parts of your brain. And at the same time, it fires up your intuitive right hemisphere. So you combine that sound with the massive flood of melatonin from the total darkness, and what you get is a perfectly engineered environment to dissolve the ego and access a much deeper level of consciousness. It's incredible. Okay, so let's jump over to Scandinavia and see another version of this technology. The Norse had something similar, but it was portable. It was a ritual they called utisata, which literally means sitting out. And it was all about directly engaging with the biology of darkness to gain wisdom and vision. Here's how it worked. The ritual itself was simple, but incredibly powerful. First, you'd find what's called a liminal space, a place on the threshold, like a burial mound, somewhere between the world of the living and the dead. Then, you just sit there in the freezing cold Nordic night until morning. This created this unique kind of lucid trance. The darkness jacked up the melatonin, but the intense cold triggered alertness hormones. The result? you're in a state of hyper-aware dreaming, able to pick up on the most subtle signals from the world around you and from deep within your own psyche. Which brings us to today. I mean, if our ancestors were so deeply connected to these cycles, what happens when you just cut that connection completely? The result is a deep physiological trauma, a wound that's actually written onto our very DNA. Meet the main villain of our modern story, Alan. That's short for artificial light at night. All that blue-rich light beaming from our phones, our TVs, our streetlights, it's a constant screaming signal to our ancient biology that it's high noon. And it completely shuts down our body's most important healing chemistry. The consequences are, frankly, devastating. It's a chain reaction. When you shut off that pineal melatonin, you also leave all your mitochondria totally defenseless against damage. That leads to this cascade of problems: chronic inflammation, DNA damage that just builds and builds. And here's the real kicker. This disruption can create epigenetic marks, scars, basically. They can be passed down to the next generation. And that is the circadian scar. It's the trauma of a species that has literally forgotten how to experience the night. It's this state of chronic confusion, where our genes are all prepped for the natural cycles of the Earth, but our environment is telling them a completely different and frankly damaging story. Okay, so that's the bad news, but here's the good news. We are not doomed. This isn't permanent. We can absolutely heal this disconnect. The same ancestral wisdom that shows us the problem also holds the solution. We can reclaim this lost technology. So let's walk through 3 simple, but honestly profound ways to start healing that circadian scar right now. And these aren't just little lifestyle tips. These are powerful ways of speaking to our ancient biology in its own language. First up, ground yourself. Think about it. Our ancestors were in constant conductive contact with the earth. We've insulated ourselves from it with rubber-soled shoes. Simply taking your shoes off and walking barefoot on grass or dirt or sand allows free electrons from the planet to flow into your body. It acts as a powerful natural anti-inflammatory. It's like a total bioelectrical reset. Second, and this one's huge, recreate the ancestral night. You have to turn your bedroom into a sleep sanctuary, a cave. I'm talking blackout curtains, total darkness. And in the hours before bed, swap out all those bright blue lights for dim red or amber bulbs. This mimics the light spectrum of firelight, and it sends a clear signal to your brain. The sun is gone, the fire is lit, it is time to release melatonin and begin the nightly repair cycle. In the end, reclaiming the technology of darkness is about remembering that our bodies aren't separate from the rhythms of the planet. As the physician Azra Bertrand puts it so beautifully, matter is the most precious form of light. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What wisdom could we unlock if we just allowed ourselves to turn out the lights and step back into the luminous void?